Hey, everybody liked my lipstick pretty. I just bought it today. Actually, I don't know what I'm more interested in reciting the stories or sharing the story of lipstick. Okay, this lipstick costs $2.99. If 299 people hear these stories on just look at the lipstick, it will be well worth it. And then we'll go and buy another color. But not until that, because I'm not wasting my money for no reason. But by the way, it's a pretty lipstick. It's matte. It doesn't come off. And I have a beautiful idea for the marriages of the nyanis that God willing happens. They will buy the dozen lipstick, 11 yani and 1 bahu. Okay, God, let's see how it goes. But first, I want 299 people to approve of this lipstick, and more importantly, these stories that we are going to share with you. God, I love to tell stories. I hope you enjoy hearing these mountain story. Stop laughing. Go on. We are not interested in your laughter. Just give us the moral stories. Fine. Okay. Give me a break, man. Let me take a deep breath. Oh, I removed the Mangal Sutra also. Shoot. Maybe I'm better off without it. Vaheguru, 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 Vaheguru. A son and his father were walking on the mountain. Suddenly, his son hurts himself and screams, "Oh!" To his surprise, he hears a voice repeating somewhere in the mountain, "Oh!" Curious, he yells, "Who are you?" He receives an answer, "Who are you?" And then he screams to the mountain, "I admire you." The voice answers, "I admire you." Angered at the response, he screams, "Coward!" He receives the answer, "Coward!" He looks at his father and asks, "What's going on?" The father smiles and says, "My son, pay attention." Again the man screams, "You're a champion." The voice answers, "You're a champion." The boy is surprised but does not understand. Then the father explains, "People call this echo, but really this is life. It gives you back everything you say or do. Our life is simply a reflection of our actions. If you want more love in the world, create more love in your heart. If you want more competence in your team, improve your competence." This relationship applies to everything in all aspects of life. Life will give you back everything that you have given to it. Your life is not a coincidence, it's a reflection of you. Okay, got it? Aha, we are getting the lessons right. A lesson from a frog tale. Hey, I'm not looking at you guys. You all look at me. I'll just look at the what we have to say. Just concentrate on one thing at a time, okay? Voice alone. Looks don't matter whatsoever. However I look, doesn't matter. I know. I didn't even bother to look at me. Who cares? Who wants to look at me anyway? Nobody's looking at me, so I can just go on. I remember this great story, We were going for Bhagwan Paryani's daughter's Kajal's engagement party, and there were gonna be more than 1,000 people there. And my Bobby says, I said, "I want to stay here." She said, "But you have no clothes." I said, "Oh, I have a catsuit I'm wearing right now that I bought. And she said, "So you're gonna wear a catsuit?" I said, "No, I'll just put any other robe on top of it." And who's looking at me? Nobody's looking at me. And then next day when she comes for the engagement party, and she sees me, and everybody's looking at me, and she says, "Veena, don't worry, nobody's looking at you. Nobody's looking at you." And I always remember, nobody's looking at me, so I can go on. So right now also I'm carrying on like nobody's looking at me. That's the only way I can carry on. And you know, when I want to do something like I'm enjoying sharing these stories so nicely with you that I'm like, if I get up from this chair to go fix my hair, my mood will go. Maybe forget it. Who's looking at me? Nobody looks at me any which way. Rather, let's laugh and be happy, happy, happy. God, before the year comes. A lesson from a frog tale. A group of frogs were hopping contentedly through the woods, going about their froggy business, when two of them fell into a deep pit. All of the other frogs gathered around the pit to see what could be done to help their companions. When they saw how deep the pit was, and the rest was dismayed group agreed that it was hopeless, and told the two frogs in the pit that they should prepare themselves for their fate, because they were as good as dead. Unwilling to accept this terrible fate, the two frogs began to jump with all their might. Some of the frogs shouted into the pit that it was hopeless, and that the two frogs wouldn't be in that situation if they had been more careful, more obedient to the froggy rules, and more responsible. The other frogs continued sorrowfully, shouting that they should have saved their energy and give up, since they were already as good as dead. The two frogs continued jumping as hard as they could, and after several hours of desperate effort were quite wearing. Finally, one of the frogs took heed to the calls of his fellows. Spent and disheartened, he quietly resolved himself to his fate, lay down at the bottom of the pit, and died as the others looked up in helpless grief. The other frog continued to jump up every 1 ounce of energy he had, although his body was racked with pain and he was completely exhausted. His companions began anew, yelling for him to accept his fate, stop the pain, and just die. The very frog jumped harder and harder, and wonder of wonders finally leapt so high that he sprang from the pit. Amazed, the other frogs celebrated his miraculous freedom, and then gathering around him asked, "Why did you continue jumping when we told you it was impossible?" Reading their lips, the astonished frog explained to them that he was deaf, and that when he saw their gestures shouting, he thought they were cheering him on. What he had perceived and encouragement inspired him to try harder and to succeed against all odds. Oh my God. For every story I share, I have a story to say, but I better shut up, you know. Or if my stories come out on the YouTube, that would be it. I'll be a dead body. So let's laugh while we can. This simple story contains a powerful lesson. Your encouraging words can lift someone up and help him or her make it through the day. Your destructive words can cause deep wounds. They may be the weapons that destroy someone's desire to continue trying or even their life. Your destructive, careless word can diminish someone in the eyes of others, destroy their influence, and have a lasting impact on the way others respond to them. Aha, so pretty. Weakness or strength? You judge for yourself, okay? Sometimes your biggest weakness can become your biggest strength. Take, for example, the story of a 10-year boy who decided to study judo despite the fact that he had lost his left arm in a devastating car accident. The boy began lessons with an old Japanese judo master sensei. The boy was doing well, so he couldn't understand why after 3 months of training the master had taught him only one move. "Sensei," the boy finally said, "shouldn't I be learning more moves? This is the only move you know, and this is the only move you'll ever need to know," the sensei replied. Not quite understanding, but believing it in his teacher, the boy kept training. Several months later, the sensei took the boy to his first tournament. Surprising himself, the boy easily won the first 2 matches. The third match proved to be more difficult, but after some time, his opponent became impatient and charged the boy deftly, uses his one move to win the match. Still amazed by his success, the boy was now in the finals. This time his opponent was bigger, stronger, and more experienced. For a while, the boy appeared to be overmatched. Concerned that the boy might get hurt, the referee called a timeout. He was about to stop the watch when the censor intervened. No, the censor insisted, let him continue. Soon after the match resumed, his opponent made a critical mistake. He dropped his guard. Instantly, the boy used his move to pin him. The boy had won the match and the tournament. He was the champion. On the way home, the boy and Sensei reviewed every move in which and every match. Then the boy summoned the courage to ask what was really on his mind. Sensei, how did I win the tournament with only one move? You won for two reasons, the Sensei answered. First, you have almost mastered one of the most difficult throws in all of judo. And second, the only known defense for that move is for your opponent to grab your left arm. The boy's biggest weakness had become his biggest strength. Just push, 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 push. A man was sleeping at night in his cabin when suddenly his room filled with light, and the Lord told the man that he had work for him to do and showed him a large rock in front of his cabin. The Lord explained that the man was to push against the rock with all his might. So the man did. Day after day, for many days he toiled from sun up to sundown. His shoulders set squarely against the cold, massive surface of the unmoving rock, pushing with all his might. Each night the man returned to his cabin sore and worn out, feeling that his whole body had been spent in vain. Since the man was showing discouragement, the adversary Satan decided to enter the picture by lacing thoughts into the very mind. You have been pushing against that rock for a long time and it hasn't moved, thus giving the man the impression that the task was impossible, that he was a failure. These thoughts discouraged and disheartened the man. Satan said, why kill yourself over this? Just put in your time, giving just the minimum effort, and that will be good enough. That's what he planned to do, but decided to make it matter of prayer and take his troubled thoughts to the Lord. Lord, he said, I have labored long and hard in your service, putting all my strength to that which you have asked. Yet after all this time, I have not even budged that rock by half a millimeter. What is wrong? Why am I failing? The Lord responded compassionately. My servant, when I asked you to serve me and you accepted, I told you that your task was to push against the rock with all of your strength, which you have done. Never once did I mention to you that I expected you to move it. The task was to push, and now you come to me with your strength spent, thinking that you have failed. But is that really so? Look at yourself. Your arms are strong and muscle, your back sinewed and brown, your hands are calloused from constant pressure, your legs have become massive and hard. Through opposition you have grown much, and your abilities now surpass that which you used to have. Yet you haven't moved the rock, but your calling was to be obedient and to push and to exercise your faith and to trust in my wisdom. This you have done now. I, my servant, will move the rock. At times, when we hear a word from God, we tend to use our own intellect to decipher what He wants, when actually what God wants is just a simple obedience and faith in Him. By all means, exercise the faith that moves mountains, but know that it's still God who moves mountains. But know that it is still God who moves mountains. When everything seems to go wrong, just push. When the job gets you down, just push. When people don't react the way you think they should, just push. When your money is gone and the bills are due, just push. When people just don't understand you, just push. PUS, pray until something happens. Something has already happened, I think. I'm sure. I'm positive. 299 people have seen my lipstick. And with the next 299 people will go and buy a new color for tomorrow. Let me know in comments which color you want to see me in. By the way, this is orange, as you can see. We have 6 more shades to go for 7 days of the week. Okay, chill out. Determination, that's our determination. Wow. I know nobody. I forget nobody. Don't look at me. At least hear me out, man. 299 people hear me out. Just look at the lipstick and then hear me out. I got my teeth fixed too while I was in India, so it's good, right? Oh, cute. So it will be worth the dentist fee also. Even though I promise everybody I'm not thinking and talking about no money, I'm written. Wow, businesswoman, everything for me. Charity, even charity is business. My friend told me something very strange. She says, Bina, do you know something? All your life you have been in business, all your life. So it's like business is part of you. You are a businesswoman, no matter what you do, where you are, how you are, whatever. If you do the charity also in a business-like manner, I can assure you, you will not have to worry a day in your life, because it's like I would spend every day practically 10,000 rupees, doing the color work and all this. And my money was running out really fast, because over the years, one year after year after year, the first year I spent 27 lakhs, I. And then when dear came to know, he was like screaming, and he cursed me out like crazy, anything. And but I kept going year after year after year, and kept on going. And so, like last year when I was going to India, my friend said, Beena, do it in the same way that you did business. How you did your business, the first week you made $700, right? Cool. And you didn't, and you have a business mind. You have all your life, you have been in business, beauty and business. That is what you are. So employ people and do your business, and in a charitable manner you work it out. Because you don't need the money. You're not asking for money. You're just using that money with your manpower and in a very professional, perfect and direct your expertise, experience our expertise. That was our motto of business: experience our expertise. And that would be our charitable motto too: experience our expertise, manpower. Cool. Forget that. Determination. In 1883, a creative engineer named Jen Robling was inspired by an idea to build a spectacular bridge connecting New York with the Long Island. However, the bridge building experts throughout the world thought that this was an impossible feat and told Rosenberg to forget the idea. It just could not be done. It was not practical. It had never been done before. Roybal could not ignore the vision he had in his mind of this bridge. He thought about it all the time, and he knew deep in his heart that it could be done. He just had to share the dream with someone else. After much discussion and persuasion, he managed to convince his son Washington, as up and coming engineer, that the bridge in fact could be built. Working together for the first time, the father and the son developed concept of how it could be done, accomplished, and how the obstacles could be overcome. With great excitement and inspiration and the happiness of the wild challenge before them, they hired their crew and began to build their dream bridge. The project started well, but when it was only a few months underway, the tragic accident on the site took the life of John Roybal. Washington was injured and left with a certain amount of brain damage, which resulted in him was not being able to walk or talk even or move. We told them so. Crazy men and their crazy dreams is foolish to chase wild visions. Everyone had a negative comment to make and felt that the project should be scrapped, since the Roblings were the only ones who knew how the bridge could be built. In spite of this handicap, Washington was never discouraged and still had a burning desire to complete the bridge, and his mind was still as sharp as ever. He tried to inspire and pass on his enthusiasm to some of his friends, but they were too daunted by the task. As he lay on his bed in his hospital room, and with the sunlight streaming through the windows, a gentle breeze blew the flimsy white curtains apart, and he was able to see the sky and the tops of the tree outside for just a moment. It seemed that there was a message for him not to give up. Suddenly an idea hit him. All he could do was move one finger, and he decided to make the best use of it. By moving this, he slowly developed the code of communication with his wife. He touched his wife's arm with that finger, indicating to her that he wanted her to call the engineer again. Then he used the same method for tapping her arm to tell the engineers what to do. It seemed too foolish, but the project was under the way again. For 13 years, Washington tapped out his instructions with his finger and his wife's arm until the bridge was finally completed. Today, the spectacular Brooklyn Bridge stands in all its glory as a tribute to the triumph of one man's indomitable spirit and his determination not to be defeated by circumstances. It is also a tribute to the engineers and the teamwork, and to their faith in a man who was considered mad by half the world. It stands too as a tangible monument to the love and devotion of his wife, who for 13 long years patiently decoded the messages of her husband and told the engineers what to do. Perhaps this is one of the best examples of a never say die attitude that overcomes a terrible physical handicaps and achieves an impossible goal. Often when the face of obstacles in our day-to-day life, our hurdles seem very small in comparison to what many others have to face. The Brooklyn Bridge shows us that dreams that seem impossible can be realized with determination and persistence, no matter what the odds. Even the most distant dreams can be realized with determination and persistence, like me. I don't give up, right? God. We will become the audio reader of the books. Okay, that is determined. And when I die, the Guru Granth Sahib Ji would be recited by me. I mean, I've been working on it. God, how many times have we read the Guru Granth Sahib? At least 40, 50, maybe more, many more times, But one day we'll get it out on the YouTube, the whole thing. And then when I die, make sure that is what you all put for 12 days. So we must recite it also in 12 days. So the complete, that would be great, right? We'll do it. God, you can do anything. I'm zero, but you are my hero. The crackpot. Once upon a time, there was a water bearer in India who had 2 large pots. Each hung on each end of a pole when he carried across his neck. One of his pots had a crack in it, and while the other pot was perfect and always delivered a full portion of water at the end of the long walk from the stream to the master's house, the cracked pot arrived only half full. For a full 2 years, this went on daily, with the bearer delivering only 1.5 pot full of water in his master's house. Of course, the perfect pot was proud of its accomplishments, perfect to the end for which it was made. But the poor cracked pot was ashamed of its own imperfection and miserable that it was able to accomplish only half of what it had meant to do. After 2 years of what it perceived to be a little failure, it broke to the water bearer one day by the stream. "I'm ashamed of myself and want to apologize to you." "Why?" asked the bearer. "What are you ashamed of?" "I have been able for these past 2 years to deliver only half load because this crack in my side causes water to leak out all the way back to your master's house. Because of my flaw, you have to do all the work and you don't get food value from your efforts at the pot," said the water bearer. Felt sorry for the old crackpot, and in his compassion he said, "As we returned to the master's house, I want you to notice the beautiful flowers along the path." Indeed, as they went up the hill, the old crackpot took notice of the sun warming the beautiful wildflowers on the side of the path, and this shedded some. But at the end of the trail, it still felt bad because it had leaked out half its load, and so again it apologized to the bearer for his failure. The bearer said to the pot, "Did you notice that there are flowers only on your side of your path but not on the other side, pot side. That's because have always known about your fault and I took advantage of it. I planted flower seeds on your side of the path, and every day while we walk back from the stream, you have watered them. For 2 years, I have been able to pick these beautiful flowers to decorate my master's table. Without you being just the way you are, he would not have this beauty to grace this house. Aha! Each of us have our own unique flaw, but it is the cracks and the flaws we each have that make our lives together so very interesting and rewarding. You have just got to take each person for what they are and look for the good in them. God exists. Yes, God exists. I know it. I know it. I mean, we get so many revelations from God. They are so wonderful, but you can't talk them out. Like, like, but okay, I will not say, because this was the greatest revelation that gave me the inspiration to recite Guru Granth Sahib Ji. In fact, God himself taught me to read the Guru Granth Sahib Ji. That is why I'm so very keen to put it out for all of you, because that revelation, his teachings was so fabulous, And the whole Guru Granth Sahib is in the musical form. You know that? Okay, so now you know. God exists. A man went to a barber shop to have his hair and his beard cut as always. He started to have a good conversation with the barber who attended him. They talked about so many things on various subjects. Suddenly, they touched the subject of God. The barber said, "Look, man, I don't believe that God exists as you say so. Why do you say that?" Asked the client. "Well, it's so easy. You just have to go out in the street to realize that God does not exist." "Oh, tell me, if God existed, would there be so many sick people? Would there be abundant children? If God existed, would there neither be suffering nor pain? I can't think of God who permits all of these things." The client stopped for a moment thinking, but he didn't want to respond so as to prevent an argument. The barber finished his job and the client went out of shop. Just after he left the barber shop, he saw a man in the street with his long hair and beard. It seems that it had been a long time since he had just cut and looked so untidy. Then the client again entered the barber shop and said to the barber, "No, what? Barbers do not exist." "How come they don't exist?" asked the barber. "Well, I'm here and I'm a barber." "No," the client exclaimed. "They don't exist because if they did, there would be no people with long hair and beard like that man who walks in the street." Aha! Our barbers do exist. What happens is that people do not come to us exactly, affirm the client. That's the point. God does exist. What happens is people don't go to him and do not look for him. That's why there is so much pain and suffering in the world. Oh my God, that reminds me, we had this, my shop's name was Rita's Eyebrows, and I do truly beautiful. I mean, my eyebrows are the best. The best. I mean, I'm not saying that, but that's the truth. So you can't deny the truth, Facts are facts. No matter what you say, facts, you cannot change the facts, right? And the fact is that Rita's eyebrows are the best. And our motto used to be, "Eyes are God's gift to you. Rita's eyebrows is the perfect gift wrap." Okay, so can you imagine this eye? See the difference between this eye and this eye? Okay, and then with the eyebrows, I can literally give you the facelift. If I do one eyebrow, you'll see this. It's beautiful. I mean, amazingly. So we were doing this eyebrows, and threading was not nobody knew about threading in those days in America when we did it. My very first, I'll give you this incident. This is, this is a moral story in itself. I had gone to Baltimore for beauty show, and there was a $50 entrance fee. And I'm like, I don't want to pay $50 for my dear. So I had this board, it said 3 minutes look good for 3 weeks, Rita's eyebrows, Eyes are God's gift to you. Rita's eyebrows make the perfect packaging. and nice board, you know. So I said at the entrance, I'm taking this board inside, and he's with me, and I went in free of charge. And there was a furniture store. I said to them, hey, you want some advertisement for your furniture to sell? He said, sure. I said, then give me your best chair, please. And he gave me a nice chair, and I decorated it nicely and put the sign. And I said, eyebrows free, eyebrows free. 3 minutes, look good for 3 weeks. And everybody started to line up. I would do just one eye and make everybody stand up in a line. And before you know it, the line was growing long. And right then and there, Dia got a call to work, and he said, should I go? I said, oh, please leave, And I'm saying to myself, why am I doing eyebrows for free? So I came back. Now Dia is gone. I have nothing to fear, I'm bold and beautiful. So I said, excuse me, please, everybody in the line, the free eyebrows time is over. But it's only $5 only. And I saw not a single person moved out of the line. So we continued to do it. And then some said, oh, I have some hair here in the chin. Some said here, some said on the forehead. And so I said, okay, all good. Only $5 here, $5 here, $5 this, $5 this, whatever you want, $5. And when I came home and I just took out the money, it was exactly $500. Plus those free eyebrows that we did. And we went on. Then I would do here, there, everywhere. I'll do the shows. One day, Jacob Javits Center, they had 3-day show. So on the 3rd day, I heard somebody says, you say nobody does eyebrows like Rita's eyebrows. And look at my eyebrows. Aren't they? How do you like my eyebrows? I say, those eyebrows are just like Rita's eyebrows. And she's like, yes, sure, absolutely, because you did them the first day. And I'm telling you, and then we would do the lashes. Oh my God, it's, the eye makeup and everything. And I can assure you, by God's honest truth, I'm telling you, if Oprah Winfrey was to get eyebrows done by me, she would never ever go to anybody else, or anybody for that matter. Our eyebrows are the best till today, I'm telling you. But even if I do eyebrows in India, I'm not going to do them for less than 500 to anyone, period. Okay, my price of the eyebrows is minimum 500 rupees. All right. So if you all want me to do it in India or anywhere in the world, but price is supposed to be set right. Okay? Otherwise, we are not moving. We are in charitable business, so we need money for that. You want my expertise? I want expenses to take care of. Okay, the boy with the strong belief. Shaq Fateh Ali Mosley relates once. I saw a young boy walking through the jungle. It appeared as if he was uttering some words. I greeted him with salame. He replied accordingly. I inquired, where are you going? To the house of Allah, Makkah. I further asked, what are you reciting? Quran, he replied. I remarked, you are at a tender age. It's not an obligation that you are required to fulfill. He said, I have witnessed death approach people younger than me and therefore would like to prepare if death was to knock at my door. I astonishingly commented, your steps are small and your destination far. He responded, my duty is to make this step, and it remains the responsibility of Allah to make me to my destination. I continued to ask, where is your provision and convenience means of transport? He replied, my yaqeen belief is my provision and my feet are my conveyance. I explained, I am asking you regarding bread and water. He replied, oh Shakir, if someone invited you to his house, would it be appropriate to take your own food? I exclaimed, no. Similarly, my Lord has invited his servant to his house. It is only the weakness of your yaqeen that makes us carry provision. Despite this, do you think Allah will let you go to West? Never, I replied. He then left. Sometimes later, I saw him at Makkah. He approached me and inquired, oh Shaki, are you still of weak belief? Stories of Fears by Sheikh Ahmad Ali. Oh, I want to see the world, right? I'd really, really, really enjoy watching the world. And we can complete the Guru Granth Sahib in 1 week. Because so anybody who wants me to recite the Guru Granth Sahib for a special occasion, so we'll read the Guru Granth Sahib in 3 hours, and rest of the day chill out, chill, as long as we complete the whole Guru Granth Sahib within 1 week. So I got to see the world. Of course, I've seen many places, but the more you see, the more you haven't seen. So we'll see it all. A very powerful story. How many stories of our own we have? Better shut up. Oh God, life is so beautiful, and the world is so beautiful. And there's so much we can do together, all of us, right? Bina education, 3 hour concentration. That's it, nothing else. With that, everything else comes. If you do 3 hour concentration a day, then chill out for the rest of the days, okay? A very powerful story. He remembered his grandmother's warning about praying on time. My son, you shouldn't leave prayer to this late time. His grandmother's age was 70, but whenever she heard the adhan, she got like an arrow and performed Salah Namaz prayer. He, however, could never win over his ego to get up and pray. Whatever he did, his Salah was always the last to be offered and prayed it quickly to get it on time. Thinking of this, he got up and realized that there was only 15 minutes left before Salah or Isha. He quickly made wudu and performed Salat in Maghrib. While making tasbih, he again remembered his grandmother and was embarrassed by how he had prayed. His grandmother prayed with such tranquility and peace. He began making dua and went down to make sajda and stayed like that for a while. He had been at school all day and was tired, so tired he awoke abruptly to the sound of noise and shouting. He was sweating profusely. He looked around. He was very crowded. Every direction he looked, it was filled with people. Some stood frozen, looking around. Some were running left and right. And some were on their knees with their hands in their hands, just waiting. Pure fear and apprehension filled him as he realized where he was. His heart was about to burst. He was the day of judgment. When he was alive, he had heard many things about the questioning of the day of judgment. But that seemed so long ago. Could this be something his mind made up? No, the weight and the fear were so great that he could not have imagined this. The integration was still going on. He began moving frantically from people to ask if his name had been called. No one could answer him. All of a sudden his name was called and the crowd split in two and made a passageway for him. Two people grabbed his arms and led him forward. He walked with annoying arms through the crowd. The angels brought him to the center and left him there. His head was bent down and his whole life was passing in front of his eyes like a movie. He opened his eyes. He saw only another world. The people were helping others. He saw his father running from one lecture to the other, spending his wealth in the way of Islam. His mother invited guests to their house and one table was being set while the other was being cleared. He pleaded his case. I too was always on this path. I helped others. I spread the word of Allah. I performed my salah. I fasted in the month of Ramadan. Whatever Allah ordered us to do, I did. Whatever He ordered us not to do, I did not. He began to cry and think about how much he loved Allah. He knew that whatever he had done in life would be less than what Allah deserved, and his only protector was Allah. He was sweating like never before. He was shaking all over. His eyes were fixed on the scale, waiting for the final decision. At last, the decision was made. The two angels with sheets of paper in their hands turned to the crowd. His legs felt like they were going to collapse. He closed his eyes as they began to read the names of those people who were to enter Jahannam, hell. He came. His name was read first. He fell on his knees and yelled that this couldn't be. How could I go to Jahannam? Jahannam. I served others all my life. I spread the word of Allah to others. His eyes had become blurry and his shaking was sweat. With sweat, the two angels took him by the arms. At his feet, dragged They went through the crowd and advanced with the blazing flames of Jahannam. He was yelling and wondered if there was any person who was going to help him. He was yelling of all the good deeds he had done, how he had helped his father, his fast prayers, the Quran that he read. He was asking if none of them could help him. The Jahannam angels continued to drag him. They had gotten closer to hellfire. He looked back at these were his last prayers. Had not Rasulullah said, how clean would a person be who baths in a river 5 times a day? So too does the Salah performed 5 times cleanse someone from their sins. He began yelling, my prayers, my prayers, my prayers. The 2 angels did not stop. They came to the edge of the abyss of Jahannam. The flames of the fire were burning his face. He looked back one last time, but his eyes were dry of hope and he had nothing left in him. One of the angels pushed him in. He found himself in the air and falling towards the flame. He had just fallen 5 or 6 feet when a hand grabbed him by the arm and pulled him back. He lifted his head and saw an old man with a white beard. He wiped some dust off himself and asked him, who are you? The old man said, I am your prayers. Why are you so late? I was almost in the fire. You rescued me at the last time before I fell in. The old man smiled and shook his head. You always perform me at the last minute, and did you forget? At the last instant he blinked and lifted his head from sajda. He was in a sweat. He listened to the voices coming from outside. He heard the adhan for Salatul Asha. He got up quickly and went to perform wudu. Say your prayers before prayers for you are said. Namaz Paratzillah. Say your prayers before prayers for you are said. Words and actions should be the same. There once was a boy who loved eating sweets. He always asked for the sweets from his father. His father was a poor man. He could not always afford sweets for his son, but the little boy did not understand this and demanded sweets all the time. The boy's father thought hard about how to stop the child asking for so many sweets. There was a very holy man living nearby at the time. The boy's father had an idea. He decided to take the boy to the great man who might be able to persuade the child to stop asking for sweets all the time. The boy and his father went along to the great man. The father said to him, oh great son, could you ask my son to stop asking for sweets which I cannot afford? The great man was in difficulty because he liked sweets and son. How could he ask the boy to give up asking for sweets? The holy man told the father to bring his son back after 1 month. During that month, the holy man gave up eating sweets, and when the boy and his father returned after a month, the holy man said to the boy, my dear child, will you stop asking for sweets which your father cannot afford to give you? From then on, the boy stopped asking for sweets. The boy's father asked the son, why did you not ask my son to give up asking for sweets when he came to you a month ago? The saint replied, how could I ask a boy to give up sweets when I love sweets myself? In the last month I gave up eating sweets. A person's example is much more powerful than just his words. When we ask someone to do something, we must do it ourselves also. We should not ask others to do what we do not do ourselves. Always make sure that your actions and your words are same. Beautiful. You are far more precious than diamonds and pearls. If memory serves me correctly, I was wearing a little white tank top and a short black skirt. I had been raised Orthodox Muslim, so I had never before worn such revealing clothing while in my father's presence. When we finally arrived, the chauffeur escorted my younger sister Laila and me up to my father's suite. As usual, he was hiding behind the door waiting to scare us. He exchanged many hugs and kisses as we possibly gave in one day. My father took a good look at us, then he sat me down on his lap and said something that I'll never forget. He looked me straight in the eyes and said, Hannah, everything that God made valuable in the world is covered and hard to get to. Where do you find diamonds? Deep down in the ground, covered and protected. Where do you find pearls? Deep down at the bottom of the ocean, covered up and protected in a beautiful shell. Where do you find gold? Way down in a mine, covered over the layers and layers of rocks. You have got to work hard to get to them. He looked at me with serious eyes. Your body is sacred. You are far more precious than diamonds and pearls, and you should be covered too. The one-eyed door. A doe had the misfortune to lose one of her eyes and could not see anyone approaching her on that side. So, to avoid the danger, she always used to feed on a high cliff near the sea with her sound eye looking toward the land. By this means, she could see whenever the hunters approached her on land, and often escaped by this means. But the hunters found her that she was blind on one eye and hiding a boat rowed under the cliff where she used to feed and shot her from the sea. Ah, cried she with her dying voice, you cannot escape your fate. The cage birds escape. Once upon a time, there was a bird in a cage who sang for her merchant's owner. He took delight in her song day and night and was so fond of her that he served her water in a golden dish. Before he left for the business trip, he asked the bird if he had a wish. I would go through the forest where you were born, past the birds of your old neighborhood. With what message should I take for them? The bird said, tell them I sit full of sorrow in a cage singing my captive song. Day and night my heart is full of grief. I hope it will not be long before I see my friends again and fly freely through the trees. Bring me a message from the lovely forest which will set my heart at ease. Oh, I yearn for my beloved to fly with him and spread my wings. Until then there is no joy for me and I am cut off from all of life's sweet things. The merchant travelled on the donkey through the dense forest. He listened to the melodies of many birds. When the merchant reached the forest where his bird came from, he stopped, pushed his hood back, and said, "Oh, you birds, greetings to you all from my pretty bird locked in her cage. She sends tidings of her love to you and wants to tell of her plight. She asks for a reply that will ease her heart. My love for her keeps her captive with bars all around her. She wants to join her beloved and sing her songs through the air with a free heart. But I wouldn't miss her beautiful songs and cannot let her go." All the birds listened to the merchant's words. Suddenly one bird shrieked and fell from a tree branch to the ground. The merchant froze to the spot where he stood. Nothing could astound him more than this did. One bird had fallen down dead. The merchant continued on the city and traded his goods. At last he returned to his home. He could not know what to tell to his bird. When she asked what message he had brought, he stood before her cage and said, "Oh, nothing to speak of. Oh, no, no." The bird cried, "I must know at once." "I do not know what happened," said the merchant. "I told them your message. Then one of them fell down dead." Suddenly the merchant bird let out a terrible shriek and fell on her head to the bottom of the cage. The merchant was horrified. He wept in despair. "Oh, what have I done?" he cried. "What have I done? Now my life means nothing. My moon has gone and so has my sun. Now my own bird is dead." He opened the cage door and reached in and took her into his hands gently and carefully. "I will have to bury her now," he said. "Poor thing is dead." Suddenly, the moment he had lifted the bird out of the cage, she swooped up, flew out of the window, and landed on the nearest roof slope. She turned to him and said gratefully, "Thank you, merchant master, for delivering my message." The bird's reply instructed me how to win my freedom. All I had to do was to be dead. I get my freedom when I chose to die. So now I fly to my beloved who waits for me. Goodbye, goodbye, my master no longer. My bird was wise. She taught me the secret, the merchant reflected. If you want to be with the ones you love, you must be ready to give up everything, even life itself. And then by Allah, you will win your heart's desire. The three wise men. One day, some wise men who were going about the country trying to find answers to some of the great questions of their time came to Nasruddin's district and asked to see the wisest man in the place. Nasruddin was brought forward and a big crowd gathered to listen. The first wise man began by asking, "Where is the exact center of the world?" "It is under on right heel, my right heel." "How can you prove that?" asked the first wise man. If you don't believe me, answer Nasruddin, measure and see. The first wise man had nothing to answer to that, so the second wise man asked the question, how many stars are there in the sky? As many as there are hairs on my donkey. What proof have you got of that? If you don't believe me, count the hairs on my donkey and you will see. That's foolish talk. How can one count the hairs on a donkey? Well, how can one count the stars in the sky? If one is foolish talk, so is the other. The second wise man was silent. The third wise man was becoming annoyed with Nasruddin and answers. He said, you seem to know a lot about your donkey. So can you tell me how many hairs there are in its tail? Yes, there are exactly as many hairs in its tail as there are in your beard. How can you prove that? I can prove it very easily. You can pull your one hair out of my donkey's tail for every one I pull out of your beard. If your hairs on my donkey's tail do not come to an end at exactly the same time as the hair in your beard, I will admit I was wrong. Of course, the third wise man was not willing to do this, so the crowd declared Nasruddin the winner of all the day's arguments. Old Grey. One day the Nasruddin said to his friends, if I die, bury me in an old grave. Why? Because if the angels come, I'll tell them that I died years before and have already been questioned, and then they will return the way they came. The clever boy. A man with his donkey carrying 2 sacks of wheat was on his way to the market. After a little while he was tired and they rested under a tree. When he woke up from the nap, he could not see the donkey and started searching for the donkey everywhere. On the way, he met a boy. He asked the boy, have you seen the donkey? That boy asked, is the donkey's left eye blind, his right foot lame, and is he carrying a load of wheat? The man was happy and said, yes, exactly. Where have you seen it? The boy answered, I haven't seen it. This made the man very angry, and he took the boy to the village chief for punishment. The judge asked, dear boy, if you had not seen the donkey, how could you describe it? I saw the tracks of a donkey, and the right and left tracks were different. From this I understood that the donkey was passing. There was limping, and the grass on the right side of the road was eaten, but the grass on the left side was not. From that I understood that his left eye was blind. There were wheat seeds scattered on the ground, so I understood that he must have been carrying a load of wheat. The judge understood the boy's cleverness and told the man to forgive the boy. This story teaches us what we should not quick to judge the people. The merchant and his donkey. One beautiful spring morning, a merchant loaded his donkey with bags of salt to go to the market in order to sell them. The merchant and his monkey were walking along together. They had not walked far when they reached a river on the road. Unfortunately, the donkey slipped and fell into the river and noticed that the bags of salt loaded with his bag became lighter. There was nothing the merchant could do except return home, where he loaded his donkey with more bags of salt. As it reached a slippery river bank, now deliberately the donkey fell into the river and wasted all the bags of salt on his back again. The merchant quickly discovered the donkey's trick. He then returned home again, but reloaded the donkey with bags of sponges. The foolish, tricky donkey again set on its way. On reaching the river, he again fell into the water, but instead of the load becoming lighter, it became heavier. The merchant laughed at him and said, you foolish donkey, your trick has been discovered, and you should know that. Those who are too clever sometimes overreach themselves. My mother would always say, if you're smart, you won't try to appear smart. The ant and the grasshopper. One cold, frosty day in the middle of the winter, a colony of ants was busy drying out some grains of corn which had grown damp during the wet autumn weather. A grasshopper, half dead with cold and hunger, came up to one of the ants. Please give me a grail or two from your store of corn to save my life, he said faintly. He worked day and night to get his corn in. Why should I give it to you? Asked the ant crossly. Whatever you are doing all last summer when you should have been gathering your food. Oh, I didn't have time for things like that, said the grasshopper. I was far too busy singing to carry corn about. The ant laughed and kindly. In that case, you can sing all winter as far as I'm concerned, he said, and without another word, he turned back to his work. Islam teaches us that we should help the less fortunate, but it also teaches us that we must work hard and not rely on the kindness of others for our daily needs. The fox who got caught in the tree trunk. Once upon a time, there was a hungry fox that was looking for something to eat. He was very hungry. No matter how hard he tried, the fox could not find food. Finally, he went to the edge of the forest and searching there for food. Suddenly, he caught sight of a big tree with a hole in it. Inside the hole was a package. The hungry fox immediately thought that there might be food in it, and he became very happy. He jumped into the hole, and when he opened the package, he saw there were a lot of food, bread, meat, and fruit in it. And Cold Woodcutter had placed the food in the tree trunk while he cut down trees in the forest. He was going to eat it for his lunch. The fox happily began to eat. After the fox had finished eating, he felt thirsty and decided to leave the trunk and drink some water from the nearby spring. However, no matter how hard he tried, he could not get out of the hole. Do you know why? Yes, the fox had eaten so much food that he became too big to fit through the hole. The fox was very sad and upset. He told himself, I wish that I had thought a little before jumping into the hole. Yes, children, this is the result of doing something without thinking about it first. Cats and roosters. Once upon a time in Africa, roosters ruled cats. The cats worked hard all day, and at night they had to bring all they had gathered for the roosters. The king of the roosters would take all the food for himself and for the other roosters. The roosters loved to eat ants, thus every cat had a purse hung around its neck, which it filled with ants for the king of the roosters. The cats did not like the situation. They wanted to rid themselves of the king so that the food they gathered through hard work and great difficulty would be their own. But they were afraid of roosters. The roosters had told the cats that roosters' combs were made of the fire and that the fire of their combs would burn anyone who disobeyed them. The cats believed them and therefore worked from early morning until night for the roosters. One night, the fire of the house of Mrs. Cat went out. She told her kitten Fluffy to bring some fire from Mr. Rooster's house. When Fluffy went into the house of the rooster, she saw that Mr. Rooster was fast asleep, his stomach swollen with the ants he had eaten. The kitten was afraid to wake the rooster, so he returned home empty-handed and told the mother what had happened. Mrs. Cat said, now that the rooster is asleep, gather some dry twigs and place them near his